Recently we went to Japan, and these are 7 mistakes that we made while traveling with a baby. Traveling with a baby is lots of fun, but it is different, and so mistakes you make kind of compound and seem a lot bigger. So we're going to talk about those so you don't have to make the same mistakes. These are mistakes from jet lag to our Airbnb location to the airport to flights home and Japanese cultures and customs. So these are the mistakes that we made so that you don't have to make the same ones. So the first mistake we made was with our Airbnb. We stayed in Tokyo and in Kyoto. In Tokyo, we stayed in 2 different Airbnbs, and we did not line up the times properly. So we had a check out at 11 a.m. and a check-in at 3 p.m. where we had to just sit around with our luggage and with our baby and entertain ourselves. We didn't plan anything in between there. So that was our first problem. It was also winter. It was in January that we went. So I would not recommend having this weird time in between. Plan a tour, plan somewhere that you can be inside and warm, because we just had a rough time trying to transition between the 2 Airbnbs. The other thing with the Airbnb that we didn't think about was we didn't think to check the location. So in Kyoto, where we stayed, we were right in the middle of one of the tourist districts. So this was fine. You know, it was great because attractions were really close to us, but it was actually a red zone for taxis. So they couldn't drop us off actually at our Airbnb. So when we were going to the Airbnb, they dropped us off at the bottom of the hill. It was a cobblestone road, like 10 or 15 minute walk up this cobblestone road through all these tourists with 2 big suitcases, 1 small suitcase, 2 backpacks, a baby, and a car seat. So this was just not ideal at all, and I wish I would have checked the location to see that A, taxis couldn't go there, and B, it was right in the middle of a tourist district so that there was going to be lots of people, cobblestone road, etc. It was just really hard to transport all our luggage. So check the locations of your Airbnbs when you are traveling. The second mistake we made had to do with jet lag. We were coming from a 5-hour time difference, which we didn't think would be too bad. You know, we knew it would be a few days of jet lag, but honestly, it was like 5 or 6 days of going to bed at 3 or 4 p.m. and waking up at 3 a.m. and trying to get our baby adjusted to that time. We could have been fine, but with a baby, they do take 3 or 4 days to adjust to the time that you are in. And so the problem with this is that when we flew in, we didn't have any food with us. We flew in at like 10 p.m. By the time we got settled in our Airbnb, it was midnight, 1 a.m., and we were starving. So then we had to go out shopping in the middle of the night, and that was not the best situation for us, especially with the baby. So would recommend planning ahead with jet lag to make sure that you have food and everything you need so you don't have to be shopping in the middle of the night for those first few nights when you're up at 3 or 4 a.m. because baby hasn't adjusted to the time yet. The next mistake we made was just bringing too much luggage and not renting certain services in Japan. So we brought a car seat because we were like, you know, we're going to drive around. But if at all possible, I would recommend renting a car seat at your destination because it's so annoying to lug that thing around. Oh my gosh, especially in Kyoto when we had to drag it up that massive cobblestone hill with all these tourists. I just wanted to throw the car seat away. It was so annoying. So I wish we had left it home and used rental services that had car seats in their cars or in their taxis or Uber, or taken public transportation where you didn't need a car seat. The other thing with luggage is that transporting any amount of luggage and a car seat with a baby is very stressful. So there are luggage transportation services that take it from Tokyo to Kyoto or Osaka, and I wish we had known about that beforehand and used that, because trying to go everywhere with all the luggage was a lot and very stressful, and on top of it, trying to keep baby happy, making sure they were fed, etc. and warm. It was just a lot and very stressful. So I wish we had used those luggage services and rented a car seat if possible when we were in Japan. So the next mistake we made was kind of on the same vein with this luggage. So we thought we were going to take the bullet train from Tokyo to Kyoto. But with a baby and a lot of luggage and a car seat, we just were pretty stressed thinking about trying to put all the luggage on the bullet train and keep baby happy. It's like a 3-hour train ride as well. So instead what we did is we booked a flight from Tokyo to Osaka and then took transportation from Osaka to Kyoto. This was a shorter flight. Luggage is so much easier in the airport, and it just worked really well for us to do this. So I would plan ahead to think about what transportation services are best for you and your family, because the bullet train just was not it for us. The fifth mistake that we made had to do with the airport in Tokyo. So I mentioned that we flew from Tokyo to Osaka and then went to Kyoto. So Tokyo is a massive airport, which I didn't realize. I mean, I knew it was a big city, but didn't realize how big the airport was. So first off, we got dropped off at the wrong location for a departure, had to walk all over to find the right place. You know, we have a baby, just any extended amount of time, it was a little stressful. And then when we got to the counter to check our luggage, the line was the longest line I've ever seen in my life. Like literally circled around out the hallway and around the corner. And we got there like 3 hours ahead of time because I like to be prepared, but was not prepared enough. And I was like, we're gonna miss our flight. Luckily, I went and talked to one of the the agents and they expedited us through that check-in line and security because we had a baby. But if we hadn't had a baby, we would have missed our flight because it's just such a massive airport and so many people were trying to check their luggage. So definitely plan ample time when you're going to the airports in Japan, especially with a baby, because they're just massive and you need more time than you think you do. The sixth mistake we made also had to do with airports and flights. So when we booked our flights home, we had to take 3 flights to be able to get back to Canada where we're from. And so when we booked this, the one across the ocean from Japan is like a 10-hour flight. So I didn't really think about like all these pieces that needed to go together. So by the time we boarded our flight in Taiwan to go to the mainland of Canada, it was delayed enough that we had missed our last flight. And so this isn't a huge deal you'd think, except that by the time we got to Canada, we'd already been traveling for like 15 hours because we had 2 flights before. One of those flights was a 10-hour red-eye flight. Hey, red-eye flights with a baby, you just don't sleep great. So we are just kind of a little antsy, exhausted, hungry. And then since we missed our flight, we had a long layover in Canada before we could get another flight to our final destination. So this was just not smart to do this. So I would book flights that have enough time in between, or direct flights so you can just skip the layovers, because it was like a 20-hour travel day by the time we finally got to our final destination. We were exhausted, baby was exhausted, and it was just not ideal. And then the last mistake we made is we did not research the customs of the Japanese people enough. Okay, we have Japanese friends, we thought we knew enough about the way the Japanese people were so that we wouldn't offend anyone, but when we were there, we got some weird looks from things that we did. One thing is they bow to everyone when you say thank you or when you give a service, and so that was a little weird for us at the beginning before we got accustomed to it, and then it was very simple and kind of was easy to integrate into how you were acting. The other thing that was a little awkward was how kids behave in Japan. So kids are very well behaved in Japan, and our baby was 10 months old at the time, and so he's just talking and babbling and crawling all over the place. But we were in a library at one point waiting in between our Airbnbs because we didn't plan that very well again, and baby was just babbling and crawling around and playing, and everywhere else everyone was super quiet. The kids were well behaved, just really quietly, and so I felt like we were disrupting people, and I felt bad for not having thought about that beforehand when we were in a public space. So these are just some of the customs that I wish we had of research so that we could be more polite to the culture that we are visiting. Again, you don't have to change yourself. You know, we're not asking you to change yourself when you travel to other cultures, but I think it is important to be respectful to the host country and culture to make sure that everyone feels comfortable being around you as you are traveling around the world. So there you have it. Those are the mistakes that we made when traveling to Japan with our baby. So I hope that this will help you plan your next vacation and have a stress-free time with your baby while traveling.